Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. To give people an understanding of some context of our conversation, I've taken almost everything you should and shouldn't do into your body, and now I'm coming into this kind of different chapter of my life. I try to dial in on some of the more holistic physical bits, but also some of the long-term health and well-being stuff. And this brings me to hydration, because it's something I have tried to hammer down the throats of my crews and my colleagues for God knows how long. And then I stumbled across some research a little while ago, which led me into looking for better hydration products. So just to paint the picture for people, all firefighters and first responders, let's say you've been on your days off, prepping for your shift, you've got your gear, you've got your gym bag, you've caught up on a little bit of sleep, maybe you've smashed a few good workouts. But if you're like 80% of firefighters and first responders, you are likely dehydrated. Now, a 25-year study finding from the National Institute of Health shows that poor hydration has been shown to be linked to early aging and chronic disease. Even mild dehydration results in significant negative physical outcomes, headaches, exhaustion, rapid pulse, irritability, and even mild dehydration occurs when a person is just 1.5% dehydrated. I don't know how the fuck you'd work that out yourself, but basically a condition that's not even triggers the thirst response in most people. So before you're even feeling thirsty, that's when it's happened. Now, many people will get this just from an hour of moderate hiking with no fluid intake. So imagine what it's like for firefighters who are going in on an initial attack or have been working in a wildfire. Now, these physical effects are serious if left untreated, and they can lead to dizziness, fevers, seizures, comas, and even death. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. I wanted to come on and speak with yourself, Dave, today, because I went down this rabbit hole looking for it, and I stumbled across Lyfelinez. Then I listened to a podcast with yourself and I can't remember the dude's name. It's like an accountant, analytical.
He's Tony Robbins' accountant, you know, the public speaker in the US.
Wow, okay. I did not know that. He must be rolling in the Benjamins. I mean, that is a hell of an account. You don't need many other clients if you've got Tony Robbins on your books. Have you ever done the Power Within stuff? You ever been to the NEC Birmingham and done any of them 2-day immersion seminars? Oh, mate, they're a fucking screamer. So I think it's called Unleash the Power Within. I did it when I was coming out the back end of recovery, basically, even though I'm still a fucking mess now. But theoretically, when I stopped being a drug addict, I came out the other end of that. And then I went to this Tony Robbins thing. It was when you were like going and chanting and screaming in the NEC. It was an amazing weekend. But anyway, for people that haven't listened to you and heard your story on podcasts before, it's lucky that we could even be able to have a conversation, because like I say, most of the time people have got a great story to tell, but they just ain't very interesting. Whereas you've got a little bit of a wild child background to you. So for people that are unfamiliar, give us a little bit of a whistle-stop tour. Well, not even a whistle-stop tour, because you've got quite a business portfolio background.
Yep. Well, where should we start? Let's go like early doors. So Counts Estate, ginger kid. I used to have hair.
You can't fight the ginger. Gingers are taking over the world now, though. You're really shearing all the way, brother.
So yeah, look, Counts Estate. Mum brought me up on my own. By the time I was 16, I talked my way into wanting to join the army. What an idiot! I was about 8 stone, so I literally remember the day when I was going. Just always been quite stubborn. I remember having a bag on my shoulder on the train station. It made my arm numb, and I was thinking, I can't even do a bloody press up. So 2 years on, I found my way a bit. I finished, when did I leave the army? When I was 25, so went in the Royal Engineers. Wanted to go in the paras. Good job I listened to that career bloke, because I wouldn't have got very far. Royal Engineers, plant worker mechanic. first 18-year-old, 18-year-old to end up in Northern Ireland at the end of the peace process. Luckily, when I say this with intent, lucky that I was before the Middle East, because obviously a lot of bad things for people come out of that. So I was quite lucky in that I did 3 years in Northern Ireland at the end of the peace process, which at 18, getting petrol bombed in the middle of Belfast at the weekend, so felt like just a bit of a riot. Looking back, probably a little bit more dangerous than I probably perceived at the time, but all the best. You know, we have a Nokia 8210 phone at the time. I remember my dad had asked what I was doing. I was trying to send a photo. Couldn't even come through. Like, what are you doing? Is it dark? I was like, no, you just can't see. Interestingly, I know that this is probably not going to be a top topic, but obviously the firefighter strikes, I got forced into to learning how to roll it.
You go and do the Green Goddesses
island because they didn't like them being green, but they've still got stoned every night for 2 weeks and attacked. Yeah, so the Green Goddess they painted yellow in Ireland. So I learned, because it's offensive, isn't it? We don't like green kit. You can't just bowl around with vehicles that are green. So we painted them yellow with a red stripe. Looked like Fireman Sam. Sat in that. Have you been in one like that? Engine in the middle.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I went to the National Museum, Fire Service Museum. They've got a couple in there. You got injured riding in them.
He does like 50. So we did. That was my first introduction to anything that you guys do. And look, I sat on a ground monitor pretty much for 2 weeks while this bloke tried to pay these kids to burn down a Grade 2 listed building, which is now flats, ironically enough. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, I left the army 25 after finding myself. I always say I was born in Hammered. I was made there. Didn't want to stay there full time. I think the word institutionalised is probably a polite way to put it. But again, I'm very...
But a lot of people do, though.
Safe.
Like, you... Because the military tends to attract a lot of people from their challenging backgrounds. They need a bit of structure. They're either pushed into it or they go into it. But some people stay there forever. They're like, I found my family. I love that sort of stuff. But then I always think of you a little bit like me. You're like fidgeting in a seat. And you're like, I need to fucking I need to move. I want to go and stand over there. And then I want to go stand over there. But in a military and even in the services, sometimes I struggle with that because they're like, just fucking stay where you are and do the thing. Do it for 30 years. And you're like...
But I guess, on top of that, the purpose of why I was there, I thought I knew everything at 16. I hadn't got a bloody clue. And then you realise that wasn't quite as what's the word, honourable to be there. You know, what you guys do and anyone in the emergency services type space, generally saving lives and stuff. So not to detract from any of my friends that are still in and stuff, people serving, but for me it personally wasn't that. I just think we're pawns in a bigger game.
No, I agree with you, and it is a fair point, because I always say a lot of people that less than 40 or 30% of the military ever deploy to be able to go and do the thing they were trained to do. Sometimes they can spend 20 years sat on a camp. Now, if they get to do the thing, it's amazing. Whereas the flip side of the emergency services is you genuinely will end up doing the thing that you're paid to do.
But at least the thing's positive.
We're just on our chin straps.
With a massive passion for politics. I'm not for it in its entirety, but how it works and economics, what's going on the broader piece. And we're just pawns in a bigger picture that's not linked to probably my very traditional sense of the idea of being in the military at the time. It's made me of everything I am and I'm going to be is because of that. I've got a real, I don't know whether it's healthy or unhealthy, draw to pressure. Like I perform so good under pressure all the time. Can't understand whether that's a little bit too my ADHD or not, but yeah, like people put the pressure in and it's just, I was a pathetic little kid. I was weak, I was tiny. So that's built from there. So I have a lot to thank for my time there, but at 25 thought, right, I also wanted to be, I'm going to use this in a broad sense, rich. And when I say rich, I determine that in a manner of whether you own something and you don't have to panic about losing it or breaking it. Because I think that's like, I had a bike for like 3 years, I got scratched and it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I don't think you can find any enjoyment when you're not financially equipped to not worry about breaking what you've got or losing it. So that's where my desire to be rich, however you want to term that, came from.
I find that to be responsible. Like we had a couple of spare vehicles for ages, way back when, and we lent a few to like members of the family, auntie and shit when they were struggling with stuff. But most of the time we just had them sitting outside, and people were like, what a waste of money. And then I agree, we're not getting too far down this rabbit hole, but people are like, that's stupid. But I'm like, you think you're a nice person, but you couldn't help someone if you wanted to. You haven't got the capacity to help someone with all due respect. Like, you can be as nice as you like, but unless you've created a little bit of a financial fortress, you're at the fucking whims of everybody else. Yeah? And I think of this with personal brand. I think of this with anything. It's like, I always think of my physical fitness. I'm like, you couldn't I always said this to members of my family, you couldn't pull me out of a house. If we got stuck swimming out in pedlos and it started drowning, could you pull me into shore? Do you know what I mean? You've got to make yourself mentally, physically.
You're a bad example of how big you are. I think this is quite unfair because I don't think many people could lift. I'm joking.
Yeah, but you chose to marry me, right? You chose to be with me. So, like, these are like basic things of life. I'm like, could you sustain that? And people say this about bloody pensions, and it pisses me off on the fire service. People are like, pension. By the time I get to my pension, the politicians will have gone after it another 10 times. For me, it should be some good pocket money at the end that I'm lucky to get. I'm going to create something for myself, which means I don't need that, and that will be a bonus. And people are like, well, that's just stupid. You know, the economy's built on it. Why are you fucking putting all of your faith in someone doesn't give a fuck about you? And also, it's not even them. Not if Dave's Prime Minister. Fuck me, by the time I get there, it will be 20 Prime Ministers down the line. It's that person is not going to look after you. You need to look after you.
No, I agree. So
I totally
these
agree.
Things are what led me to think, I want my own business. No, I didn't know well, I set 3 goals. So it was 25 I left. Ended up straight back on a machine at Worcester Rugby Club on a 320 excavator. Fucking hell, I was like, what have I done here? Good money, grading 40 mil with a bloke who'd been doing 40 years. He thought he was good. I was like, fuck that, I'll show you good. Just typical fucking bolshy, big-headed little idiot I was. But I was good in the machine, and then it was February, and it was fucking snowing again. I was like, what am I doing? I don't even get any adventure training breaks in this. So I'm basically back in. Yeah. And I just chose, right, let's go and throw myself. I had no qualifications, no GCSEs. Fucking terrible. I got no patience. Temperament's got better as I got older, but at the time it wasn't very good. And I went for what I thought was a job interview, but it wasn't. It was a sit down with a recruitment consultant to basically decide to try and get me into a job. And I remember I'd Googled some stuff like how to close, and I just remember not having a fucking clue what this bird was on about. Like loads of civvy chat, and it's like, bearing in mind I didn't know like HR, human resources. I remember sitting there thinking, is that when you like farm humans or something? I was like,
yeah. It is a weird one, isn't it? I always say to people, human resources. How German does that sound?
Humans, or I don't really know, but that's how like naive I was. And then I remember I just got to it, and I was like, I remember Googling something at the time to try and close it out and asking her if I got the job, and she just went, are you? And I was like, I guess I'm probably off the mark with this. She's like, yeah, well, this is a recruitment centre. I was like, oh, fuck. So what do you mean? Within 2 weeks, I got a job selling health and safety on a phone in Birmingham with a bloke called Eddie Rowley, who's still a good friend. Within 4 years, do you know the irony in the fact when you do hard things, if practicing gratitude, I found positive of what was one of the shittiest jobs you could do. 80 calls a day on a phone trying to sell health and safety. I mean, but I was so happy that I could get a brew when I want and go to the toilet when I want, and I was never going to be cold or hungry. And then I was building a PT business at the time, so I'd get a train there and make all my posts. I'd pretend to go to the toilet, sit on the toilet, post all my posts for the evening, 2-hour train home back to Shrewsbury. Then I'd run a boot camp till 10 at night. I got myself in a lot of debt as I used to race motocross and chasing it. I used to buy bikes on credit card, 30 odd grand. So I got myself in a bit of a sticky wicket and said, right, own your
Such a black hole of a sport, isn't it? It's just like built on passion. The grassroots of that thing is just families getting in debt.
To win a trophy that's probably not as big as this fucking shaker, and this probably cost more than the trophy. No. But yeah, I mean,
it's the principle of it, Dave.
I thought I was like the fastest kid in the world, but not. So I had a couple of things, and then I just got real and said, I think there was a point in my life where I realised instead of, and I've always thought differently. I think the military taught you this. You probably have it in it's definitely the same. When my other business partner Gaz and I met you, there's definitely a running theme with anyone that does things like we do. Is you just think more optimistically. I think you can spin the negative into, well, it could be fucking worse, because it always can be.
And it usually has been at some point in time. How many times did you turn up to the boot camp when 30 people were going to come, and then like later on in the day a few dropped out and there was fucking no one? You spent 20 minutes getting all the shit out in the field at the local park, and you sat there like a bell end. Yeah. But for me, I was like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to repurpose it. So you set up your little phone and you film some shit and you flip some tires and you do whatever. Yeah, just fucking do it. It starts raining. Great. How fucking brutal
and make
is this
sure you lie on
this
social
is gonna be
media
fucking
and you
great.
get some angles of like you doing a push-up or something. Oh, it's so busy here, guys. Yeah, join the fun.
There's always a way to reinterpret the win, though. That's what I mean. But some people just want to sit in a puddle of shit and just have their little pity party. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? But no, man, 100% agree. Sales is, I always say everyone should work in sales. I did some door-to-door sales for gas and electric for a few years. Then obviously with the PT stuff, and then we had a pizza business and a caravan business. Sales is brutal, and life is sales. I always say to people, you should learn sales. You fucking, no, I'm not, I'm a stay-at-home mum. Okay, well, you're selling to your kid then. You have got to sell them on the idea of put your fucking shoes on. Yeah? Life is sales. You sell yourself to a partner, to a job. Everything is that. But sales gets such a bad rap, but the fucking economy's built on sales. Shit needs to go through. Everything needs to keep going.
Yourself if you're trying to date someone. It's the first thing you do. If you can't sell something, I agree. It's one of the. I think there's a degree of confidence. I think for me to go into that industry and the people I've always talked about, and I swear it's the reason I've got to being quite successful in the vertical I'm in, is it's the place to cut your teeth. People who say, "Oh, I've called like 60 people," they've all said no. I just sit there and be like, "Oh, fucking what?" But it's that they constantly talk like. The feeling they got from the no's was so, which I understood, but it's like when you've done things, real hardship things, it just conditions you, doesn't it? I was like, well.
And also you can gamify it. You can get excited. I forget. Who's the guy? The Closer's Guide to Survival. Who is it? Grant Cardone, the American guy. You listen to these funny audiobooks, getting to yes, and also it's human behaviour. You learn human behaviour with that. And I've said this, I've ran like little sales sessions in the fire service, and people read that, what the fuck is this shit? I'm like, you get to an incident, you've got to sell everybody there that you are the shit. Yeah, you are. They need to listen to exactly what. I mean, you've got a good product already because you've arrived in a fucking red fire engine, but you've got to sell them on your confidence and your ability that you are going to get this shit done, because people will start self-deploying. Members of the public will lose confidence in you and go in that, and we've seen it last summer, they will go in that lake themselves and try and save that dog because they think you are shit. So you have got to sell yourself on that. But no, 100%. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it's just such an essential life skill.
And you've just dropped in that self-deploying. I'm so stealing that. But yeah, I think being in that office and it was just fascinating watching. I don't know, realizing that a degree of resilience instilled in me that I didn't appreciate, and then I had a real issue with. I don't know if you've ever done any of the Myers-Briggs and like personal character profiling stuff. Like I was 96% red on the first one we did that.
It's harsh, isn't it? It's brutal.
I remember the first boss was like, right, where do you want to be? I was like, in your fucking job. In fact, no, fuck that. I want to be running this company. And he's the first person that didn't smirk or laugh. He went, right, what newspaper do you read? I was like, you what? I was like, this isn't appraisal. He's like, just shut up and answer the question. I was like, what do you want about the fucking newspaper do I read? I was like, and he went, I bet it's the Sun. I was like, of course it is. And he's like, all page 3. I was like, well, what else? And he's like, what radio station? I was like, who the fuck listens to the radio? And he's like, will you just answer me? And then his point being, and if he'll listen to this, we're still in touch, but was the way I looked, the way I carried myself, a manner that did me well and does you guys well, and carrying yourself in that manner in those environments we were in works. In a corporate environment where you need to bring people on the journey, me not realising that you can have a job in Civvy Street and not fucking be any good at it, and that's okay. Like in the military, you're only good at your job if you know your boss's job. I mean, it's a given. Yours is like that's like breathing. It's a non-negotiable. Yeah. So we did this test. It was 96% red, which is objection orientated or aggressive, as people used to say, and like 4% empathy. And I learned just to probably lie a little bit more. And then I actually took an interest in other people and stopped being so selfish. That was a journey. But he said, your only ability to get to where you've said you want to be in the next 10 years, he said, is understand politics and economics. And he said, you'll only do that by the newspapers with the long words and listening to Radio 4 about politics. And he said, that way you'll be able to walk into a room with people that can be 10 or 15 years older than you, which made sense because that's what I told him I wanted. And he said, you talking about where have you been at the weekend, on the piss with who, riding bikes or snowboarding. And he said, no man that's running a large corporate will give a monkeys. He said, that's the sort of thing his eldest son will be talking about.
Won't give you a
So
time
he said,
of day.
if you can catch them with that, and I guarantee it's probably the best advice I've ever had. I used to walk in the boardroom with some of the people at Coke and Monster, and I've got a passion for it. Now, I actually listened to Radio 4, went to the caravan at the weekend, I had it on, my missus like, what are you listening to? I'm like, oh, I'm still doing it. I will read some of the news, the longer print newspapers, I guess, but it's where it's come from, because one of the first times I went into a Coke meeting, I knew this person had fuck all respect, even though I was earning as much money as he was, but you just start talking about politics or some of the latest stuff that's going on in the city, and he was right. You get a totally different response, especially when it's coming from someone that looks the way I do.
No, you're absolutely right, mate. People, I think someone said to me in one of my appraisals early on in a different corporate environment, they said, who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear anything you're saying. Because I was 23.5 stone, fucking strong man, 6'6", whatever the fuck, and they were just like,
imposing is probably the word.
It's so sad. And it was a trusted, really great, private conversation. They were like, it's so unfortunate you look the way you do, because you've got a lot of good things to say and you can be quite articulate. He says, but you won't get through the door, mate. And he says, you've got to work on that. And that's what excites me so much. And perhaps it's what even led me into podcasting, to be honest, because even though we do some of the visual stuff now, a lot of people still haven't got a clue what you look like. It's about your ability to be an effective communicator.
And you give me a hug, I was like, fucking hell, being hugged by fucking... What's his name? What's his, Martin Ford, is it? What Martin Ford got from the fire service?
There's worse people to be corrected. Yeah, but it's right. And it's important to develop those different parts of yourself, because so many of us get sort of hamstrung by our perceived identity, don't we? Like for you, or for your old colleagues, some of them are like, I am a military guy. Like, I'm sure people probably have to push you now to even get it out of you that you were once in the military. I mean, there's some identifiable facts about you and the way that you operate, but some people, the first thing they try and say, like, and you have it so much in the emergency services, I'm a firefighter. No, actually, you're far more than just the thing you do. Yeah, it's great that you do that, and we all appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. But don't rest on your laurels like that. It like you've been and done that bit, and now you're doing the business.
To your point, it's like tools now. So the more I understood human behaviour, and do you know what it is? It's fascinating, because I lean so hard into psychology, because the only thing I really craved probably my entire life is to be understood, because I'm quite a complex character. So it's driven me to want to understand other people, and through it, it's quite fulfilling. So you talk about you can lean in and out of things that you are or aren't. I've learned that they've all got a time and a place. I'll lean away from some of them when you're in a room with the people that probably couldn't give a toss, or would think you're getting on your soapbox, or would probably feel alienated or even jealous as to what you're saying, rather than taking it in a positive way.
Or a bit intimidated sometimes, because we can get super passionate about shit, can't we?
I saw a picture of myself the other day. Actually, I think I was concentrating. I was like, "Fuck me, is that what I look like?" I thought I was having an argument with myself. I was concentrating that hard. But yeah, I mean, it's just
No, I love that. And people say like, oh, that's two-faced though. And I'm like, no, it's being a chameleon. It's knowing your audience. Yeah. You should, a really effective leader, an effective, communicator, you should be able to flex your style because you do it already. Even those people, it's like bullshit, because I'm like, okay, so if I introduce you to my 10-year-old daughter, you're going to speak to me like you speak to me. Well, no, I mean, she's a kid, isn't it? Oh, so you're going to be two-faced. So you're going to fucking change her, yeah? You're not going to be yourself. No, you're going to flex your style. One of the most, and you should be able to do that. People that go, oh, I'm always myself and I don't care what anybody thinks. Well, that's bollocks, because you do fucking change. Yeah. And if you are that way, I bet fucking no one likes you. Yeah, because you will flex your style. Because we want people to like us. It's, we get that dopamine, we get that oxytocin, we get that exchange. We're pack animals. And you should, the more effectively you can do that, doesn't make you inauthentic. Makes you fucking smart.
Yeah, but I think it's... if you can change your style with someone and it matches them, there's nothing subconsciously that's more flattering than saying, I see you, and not with words. And that, for me, is really fucking powerful. Yes. And then there's the ability now...
I thought that was Avatar.
You what?
Wasn't that Avatar?
Avatar. It's...
Remember that in there?
Well, you've lost me, go on.
Avatar was the old I see you or some shit. That's what they were saying to each other. Connecting each other to the tail of a horse or something. It was getting messy. No, but you're right. It's building rapport, isn't it? Yeah. And I always say to people, you get this with sex as well. Like, without even knowing it, your breathing will become in sync. I always do mirroring and paraphrasing when I'm with people, because they start to get in sync with you. And it's a recognised behaviour. It works.
But you're back to that thing, because it's the pack thing, isn't it? We like to be. I mean, if anything showed it, COVID. People think they like to be on their own. Fucking, that's not healthy. That was a big global test that shows that. But no. So what was I? Well, I was saying what we done. Sales. So left the British Safety Council. And what did I do? I went to work for MFC Survival. So I had a bit of an insight into your world with what is it? The inflatable boats, nice. The pathways.
Oh yeah, the IRPs.
Yeah, so
you were around selling them?
For like 6 months. I thought it took over, and it's fucking ironic how we look back. There's this bloke that come in and turned the business. It was Antoni Pandy. We did go to the Christmas piss up, and oh my god, were the women down there like brutal. I don't think I've ever been in a room full of ladies that I've actually felt intimidated by. It's such a laugh though, but yeah. But yeah, they used to hand make all this stuff, sell it to you guys. Their airlift bags and things. I decided to leave there because a bloke come in, my first experience of an angel investor, and he was just fucking rude. Just pulled all the money out of the business. He threw a pen at me actually. He's lucky that he didn't get hit. Yeah,
no way.
I nearly smacked him in the face, but I just told him to stick his job, his ass, and left. I remember driving home thinking, "Fuck, I just quit my job. Why have I done that?" And then but I was like, no one's going to do that to me in a non-corporate environment as well. And then the next.
But again, what a great character building moment. Because and I say this about like kids joining the fire service, joining the military and stuff these days, a lot of people haven't had a finger pointed in their face and told them to go and fuck themselves. Do you know what I mean? And that is important. That gets some people haven't been punched in the face.
Exactly.
You need to be punched in the face by your sibling, by someone, by anyone. Do you know what I mean? You need to have those moments because it builds resilience.
Without a doubt. Because the way you just tossed at him, I thought, no one's doing that. I thought. And at the point, it was one of them I did ship someone away. I was like, what are you doing? But you reflect on it in these times. It's one of the things I've not talked about massively. You think, no, actually, that's what we should be like. We shouldn't allow that, because if you allow those things, it's a slippery slope, right? But then, weirdly enough, the next day, an advert for Gatorade, the American sports drink. Where did I find it? Somehow got it. For me, I'd always wanted to get into the sports and energy drink world, and I did. And then the rest from there, mate, was the best 12 years of my life, without a shadow of a doubt, isn't it?
So far,
yes, so far. Well said. But 12 years, it flew by. I did some cool things at Gatorade. I basically secured my place at Monster through getting headhunted, through winning an Brand Ambassador of the Year award. Met some cool people. My long-standing mentor. There's quite a nice story with this. So Hugh Davis, absolute FMCG legend, to be fair. It was at Palmer and Harvey.
So that's fast-moving consumer goods for people that don't know what it is.
Yeah. I'm just getting you back for all them acronyms you use.
We love them 3-letter acronyms.
He was head of one of the largest logistics firms. That's when I met him. He'd done some time at PepsiCo in the past, but such a good guy. He's since been my mentor since that day one. But essentially, I blagged my way into a meeting with him with a Britvic account manager. She didn't even want me there. And I said we could sell to Gatorade. She was like, we can't. I was like, we fucking can, because they sell to golf clubs. I'm going to put it in golf clubs. Seen it in the US. She's like, she wasn't having it. I just fucking railroaded into this meeting.
Why? Because she thought it was just not on brand. It was a cheaper, it looked cheaper.
Yeah, it's not. It's just that she didn't think it'd be a fit anywhere. So I don't know how I uncovered it. I found they supplied about 2,500 golf clubs. Like, there's nearly 4,000 golf clubs in this country. So I was like, if I could just sell into 100 of them, we've got some volume going, right? And then it'll be in a place where it's used. And when I used to play, at a bottle of Lucozade. Long story short.
And also, you think about a golf player, it's like I always say to people, draw your customer and have a think about what they look like. So it's someone that's probably a little bit out of shape, wants to do a little bit of golf on the weekend, and they want to take something that makes them think they're an athlete. Why do you think they're buying the same shit Tiger Woods is buying? Because they want to pretend for fucking 3 hours on a Saturday I'm an athlete and I need my athlete drink because I'm a fucking athlete.
Well, you're getting into electrolytes. Mate, electrolytes, concentration. You talked about at the beginning of the podcast, 1.5% dehydration. I think it's the rough stat is 2% dehydration makes everything 20% harder. I mean, that's when you just digest it, it's a lot. So that was my first introduction to electrolytes with Gatorade. By the time I'd left the meeting, I hadn't really realised, but I mean, he was the MD and we'd sold in. And I used to do transfer orders with the team I had, so without boring you too much, it's like quite old school, but he used to be copied in on every email. And it wasn't until James Foster, he's still friends with him now, he was my boss at the field marketing agency, he was like, why is the MD on it? And I was like, because he wanted to be. And I was like, I hadn't seen it. And I speak to him every 6 weeks. And he's since been my mentor. He ended up as my first non-exec board member on Zoom, which we'll come on to, that was worth millions. So it's quite a nice story, and he's the one that got me headhunted. So we delivered, the reason I won an award after I'd been in that meeting of this thing that this woman told me we couldn't do, we put 10% of the Gatorade annual volume on the business from a standing start in 3 months through an account that she said we'd never sell anything. So that was the start.
Wow.
So it was like a small win at anyone that's in FMCG, but it's like where I just realised I've probably got a gift for seeing gaps that most haven't, and I don't know why. But that started a friendship. We're still friends now. And then he
talk to me about mentoring for a second, because mentor, I think, is a massive thing. We won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but it's not, singular to any one sector or anything like that. I think it's incredibly, incredibly valuable. Have you always had sort of mentors? Because people have had leaders, that's different. It's not a coach. A mentor is a different kind of thing, and they're very personal to an individual. And they don't even have to work in the same sector as you.
No.
Just what's your experiences with mentoring?
Never had. I don't know. Actually, let me think quite a bit. I probably had a couple of guys. Yeah, like I think when I was in, probably my staffing, Andy Sanger, tri-service rugby coach, like thingy. But I think he was a mentor to everyone because he was just a fucking great leader. Looking back, other than that, have I had any mentors? I think we need to think of that broadly. Probably not. And I didn't even realise what Hugh was doing until that incident when James said there must be something there. Like, he's fucking important. Like, people just don't spend their time. Yeah. And he's just got a gift. I think he personally enjoys it. He obviously saw something at the time. And it's been, I'm not even sure he's comfortable with me saying he's a mentor, but I think he knows he is. Like, we still speak, but it's always, he's always been able.
Well, you don't even have to have met mentors sometimes, and this may be a bit too much of a tenuous thread, but like people that I've listened to on podcasts, people that I've got their fucking audiobooks I've listened to many a times, I'd consider them a mentor, because this is the unique thing. And I know obviously I'm screaming into a bias here, but things like podcasts and audiobooks, it's like you're having a private conversation with that person. Yeah. People listen to this now.
If you're able,
it's like they're in the room.
If you're able to self-reflect when you're listening, I think there's a big caveat there. Because if you're not able to be in a self-reflective mood when you're listening, I don't think it works. And I only take myself back to when, it's always funny when you can reflect on these. I used to probably think all this shit was bollocks. I was in the army. What did I listen to that for? What? None of this resonated with me. So I've gone through personally a position where I would never have listened to it because I didn't want to listen to it, and I didn't want to look in the mirror, I guess. Whereas now I think I enjoy it. We sit, you met Gaz, my business partner, we sit here consistently asking his opinion. You'll hear me come off from calls, he'll do the same. And when we met, it was the whole thing was quite reflective. So I don't think they're useful unless you can be in a reflective mode, because you just take things, they hurt, don't they? If you're not open to it, it hurts, and you'll just shy away from it, or get a really shitty response. It's
a bit of a chicken and egg thing. You've got to want it and or believe in the value of it for it to work. And if you don't, then it won't work. And if it doesn't work, it perpetuates your belief that it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's like a self-perpetuating wank off. People, go and listen to this TED talk. Go and sit with so-and-so. And they're like, it fucking doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not, because you're not ready to change. You're not comfortable enough. You're not ready to change. Yeah, 100%. I always say, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And they're probably already fucking around you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's people you work with every day, you could probably learn shit.
Never a dull student either, just a really terrible teacher. Because your aim to teach things is to unpick the person in front of you. I think that's when I was PT and I felt more like a therapist than a PT. Because I was just listening to people's problems so much. I was like, oh, that's the only reason they're there. And that was rather me trying to teach them how to do a bicep curl. No one wants to, it's like, what? It was putting someone in an environment where they felt comfortable to train, which meant they had to talk. But yeah, mentors, I would have one. I just think it's got to be, I had a lot of respect for him because he was in a position where I wanted to get to or wanted to be. So I don't fucking see movie stars and all that shit as impressive. It bores me. I think it's ridiculous. Singers with all these fucking people worshipping, people singing down a microphone. In its rawest form, I'm like, it boggles me. I don't understand why scientists who have got things to change the world, nutrition, people that are genuinely doing good things, to me are aspirational. So I've always been a bit different in that sense. Or people that can complete extreme feats of physical endurance or strength-based stuff. Those are the things. I just think the work that goes in to do those is just relentless. Like I met. who was the fucking swimmer we've got? One of the Olympic swimmers did a convention in Portugal. I can't think of him. It'll come to me shortly. But just talking to him.
Tom Daly?
No, big tall guy, an older guy, grey hair.
Thorpe.
Was it Thorpe? No.
Is he still a swimmer now?
No, he's retired. He did the Olympic.
Ian Thorpe.
What would he be? I've got a picture with him.
Let me have a look.
He hosted with Rebecca Adlington at the Olympics.
Oh no, he was an Australian swimmer.
An English guy.
That's my bad.
But we got talking, mate, in the night, and you realise the time those, as a discipline, what they spend.
Mark Foster.
What a bloke! Like when you hear, like the hours of dedication in the pool, like 6-7 hours a day or something.
Is specialist short course 25-metre pool.
Unreal, really nice bloke.
Well. Great British, double Olympian, world champion. I think I've met him actually.
He's really cool, mate. He's tall.
Yeah, he does a load of commentating on the Olympics and stuff, doesn't he? Yeah, awesome bloke.
Really nice guys. We're in Portugal. It's just when you hear the word.
Handsome bastard as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think he is anyway.
Tower. But those are the things that interest me. So, and I guess because for me, I always think, right, how have you got there? What have you done? Someone's position. I think there's been a lot of work, a lot of graft. So I would advise a mentor, but I guess it's understanding to serve what purpose. I always knew I wanted.
Yeah, I know a lot of people get told they should have one, and it's almost that part of the market is a little bit of the Wild West, because there's people going to, like, I can't remember some of the names of them, but the $1 billion group or the round table, whatever,
to achieve what?
Just wanking each other off.
Yeah, I just think it's the networking providers is good, but I knew I always wanted to run a business. So once at 25, when I went to the British Safety Council, I'd set myself three big goals. So I've always been someone that plans meticulously. I'm always 2-3 years ahead of myself, and I like to set things.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Does that always? I know I keep interrupting.
No.
Is the idea of them that they manifest, or is it just because for me, I do have a long-term goal, but the shit changes a lot, which I think is okay. But I think of them as tactical changes in a strategic goal. Like I think of it like a 10-lane highway.
Yeah.
Like I'm always heading north.
Yeah.
But I might be in the lanes might change. I might do this. I might do that. But it's all fucking north,
mate. And this is the premise of these. The first time I've probably understood about to strategically and effectively long-term plan for a personal reason. And I put 3 stakes in the ground. They were either to earn 100 grand in a year. So what does that do? It achieves my aim of securing financial freedom to a degree I perceived that would mean I could enjoy the things I did without worrying about losing them. It would also mean I could probably partially retire my mum. That's always been a priority. If I fuck that up, right, and it's a fluke in 1 year, and I only land at 50%, I'm still at 50 grand a year, which is twice the national average where I live at the time. So that was and then you think, because I set that, I'm not tied into a lane, a discipline, anything. I get a positive effect of feeling I'm stepping closer to that goal, but it allows me that 10-lane motorway movement. I then set another one and said, or be a director of a large company, because it's going to deliver a huge salary and it'll also deliver the bit I knew I wanted to do. I like responsibility. I don't like doing the same thing all the time over and over again. I need change. I need pressure. Or I'll be a director of my own large company. So all those things delivered on most of the important things that I knew interest me.
You still have to have preferred hows and whys though, because that's the what. So if that's the big what, it's like, but you could sell drugs to kids and smash 100k.
Yeah.
But tough moral compass to keep hold of.
So on that though, if you think about, to answer your question, you've got the 3 large goals, and I knew I'd already started the career then where I wanted to be. I'd already identified fast-moving consumable goods. So my career was Gatorade. I built a PT business, believe it or not, in my spare time. So 6 till 10 o'clock at night for 5 years. That was making 32.5 grand a year in cash. So I managed to pay the debt off. Then I was like, I thought I'd call it vanity fitness. I branded it, all the principles now. I mean, if I look back, I've had like 10 or 11 businesses and didn't even realise it. And I say failed because they all made money. They just, like the vanity fitness business, it was never going to be my vision of
No.
multi-millions. It had a ceiling, and then every Tom, Dick, and Harry was doing it. I was like, oh, fucking can't be bothered.
It's like getting a different car and then tuning it, going, you know what, this is never going to go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've had that. I had it with the pizza company, with the cleaning company, with the 2 gyms that we had, and I'm like, I've took this up to speed, but either how much of it requires me or the just mobility of the thing. I'm like, smash it to bits, start again. And people are like, oh, but I'd love to run your cleaning business. I'm like, but you don't want to fucking do it. The day-to-day dealing with bullshit that you have to do with something like that is crap.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But then there's also the lesson in being able to just let things go and start again.
Yeah.
So if you think at the time, I was always very aware that I like change. The military teaches us to deal with change, because if you don't deal with it, it's the most debilitating thing possible. Because
either embrace it or it's imposed upon you.
Yeah. Stay fluid and enjoy it, and then from that you don't get attached to things anymore. So then you live in like your experience and like we change a lot from buy a house, get a nice car to the kids just want to travel the world with a backpack. Like we've moved into a healthy space to live through experience, not things. So I'd said to myself, as soon as all 3 of those objectives, my self-employed business, my Gatorade stuff was going well, one of them is going to have to go soon, because I'm going to go all in on one of them. So I'm starting to get to a place where I was eking towards that 100k, and then out of nowhere from Gatorade, I got a phone call. I managed to get my job in Britvic, actually. I'd always wanted to get to national account manager, FMCG, Britvic. It was the shittest job I've ever had. Like that says a lot when you've dug shitters in literally and holes and stuff. But I remember sitting in Britvic, and I was a junior national account manager. Wouldn't even give me a proper one. My boss at the time, my boss's boss, who's a channel manager, told me it'd take me 15 years to get his job. I bet he felt a prick when he realised 6 months later I had a phone call from Monster and I got a job that was one level higher than him at Monster. It was like I was driving around London, had an Audi A5, convertible, right hairdresser's car. Sorry to all the hairdressers listening. I've got a phone call and I've got a bit of a temper, so I answered. I was like, hello? It was a vice president from Monster Energy. I just put the phone down. I was like, oh, fuck, because I answered it pretty rude, like hothead. Like, this guy, I was sat outside Wilson Jones Contract Catering, I always remember this, in London, Fredder's, like, I live in Shrewsbury, it's fucking miles away. I was like, I don't want to sell to contract caterers. I don't care about fucking soft drinks. Phone goes again. I'm like, oh, it's the same number. Hello, Dave speaking. Hayden Rawson here, Vice President of Monster Energy. Hugh Davis has given me your number. I was like, and at the time, my fiance worked at Red Bull, and I tried for 4 years to get into Red Bull, and they fucked me off every time at the second to last, down to the last 2. So I not only thought I couldn't get into Red Bull, and was looking at her, and her sister worked there, and a few of her friends. I was like, why can't I ride motorbikes? I'm cool. I should be working there. And then I got into Britvic and got told it'd take me ages to get this job. And then weirdly enough, like if you met me, I'm definitely like a Monster Energy guy. Like by the way I carry myself, it's weird how it happens. So I drove back to work. I met my now friend, long friend Hayden, who's the vice president of Europe as well for Monster, who's gone on from running the GB business. Met him in Sale in Manchester in a hotel, and he's wearing shorts and flip flops. I was like, well, this is fucking different. Normally you walk in, 3-stage process, fucking suit, tie, tell me what you don't like about yourself, tell me your weaknesses. Of course I'm going to tell you my fucking weaknesses. We're in an interview. I don't want to go anywhere near my weaknesses. I'm a salesman as well. This is the whole process.
Yeah. What's your weakness? I'm too ambitious. I'm just too good at what I do.
I'm just good that
I'm a bit too humble.
I'm a workaholic. It's all that. It's like how life figured out, because I wouldn't have survived there. I didn't fit. As much as I was trying to.
Isn't that such an old, like, ridiculous thing, though? When people, again, that's another self-perpetuating thing. It's just everybody saying, you need to do this, we need to wear a suit. Is anyone fucking enjoying this? You just feel like standing up and looking around. Everyone, what if we all just said, hey, why don't we fuck this up? Because no one really cares.
No, they don't. But you look around at the time, Steve Jobs never wore a fucking suit. Head of Innocent Drinks Company never wore a suit. All these, all the business owners that have done, Elon Musk doesn't bowl around in a suit all the time. It's like we're surrounded by it, but we're stuck in this corporate thread, and I've been in it where that you were dictated by what you wore and what you dressed. I mean, I've got a couple of cool stories. So when I did get to Monster, so I think I fucked my job off with them and went and started. Monster flew me straight out to the TT, the Ironman TT, for a week. I hadn't even started my job yet. I was on a plane. It was sick. So I raced bikes and stuff. Then I got into a run out of home, which is a fairly big channel in the business, for 5 years, which suited me down to the ground. So it's relationship building. We were working Monster Energy, Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola that year bought 16% of the business for 2.2 billion. Ridiculous numbers. What it meant, though, Monster were quite clever, is overnight it give Monster an opportunity to get distributed everywhere around the world. Because what's other than water, there's Coca-Cola is the only thing you can buy anywhere on the planet. So
you want access to that distribution stream, don't you? That's exactly what you want. Who was the guy ran the big steel magnet? But anyway, he bought up all of the train lines. No one was watching that side of the stuff. He knew he couldn't compete in the area that he was competing in, and he bought up all the train lines. And then everyone had to go through him, and he just cranked it all. Imagine if you went balls deep into like cargo hold ships, 7 years ago, before all of the containers hiked up and all that sort of stuff, because that is the bloodstream.
Massively.
You've got to go through it.
Yeah, and if you think. At the time, Red Bull had only just got in the category, and their distribution, they technically bucked the trend there because their distribution is centrally based in Austria. So it was efficient, but very controlled. They got a monopoly on the nightlife. We always smashed the old vodka Red Bulls, didn't we, back in the day? So I joined at a time where that had just happened. So I was straight into working with Coca-Cola, but I was a brand. So I used to go to work literally like this. A Monster snapback. I'd normally have a little cool polo with a little Monster logo on, like the athletes wore, covered in tattoos, some skinny jeans and some DCs on. And the first interesting one, we had a brand team at Coca-Cola. This is the head office in Uxbridge. And she'd come from the Coke company. I won't mention the name, but people I know would still list this. And she sat with one of the guys on the brand team who was sitting there. And she fucking literally just looked me up and down. And I was like, being quite attentive. I'm like, cheeky bitch. Like, I know what I look like, but I was like, did she just do that? Like, and the guy I'm with looked at me.
Blatantly.
And I'm talking, and she just wasn't fucking listening. Then she started talking at him, and I was like, what the fuck? Am I not here? Like,
it's a flex.
Yeah, but I couldn't figure out why she was flexing. I was like, turns out she's come from the Coca-Cola company on a secondment because of her inability to manage and read people. So she's a fucking VP at Coke, right?
It's just a social clusterfuck.
She thought I was a sales rep. So there's double-edged sword here. So it's firstly, well, even if I was, like, your reason you're here is because of exactly this behaviour. We ended up at the Wyatt in Birmingham 2 weeks later. So I know most of the Domino's franchisees. The top four are after the estate, and they're really cool guys. We walked out of my suite in the Hyatt. We paid for my work. White tux on, black tie dinner. Fucking sure enough, she's at the bloody lift, isn't she? I'm like, oh, fucking hell. I said.
Was she a smoke show though? She sounds like a smoke show.
She looked terrible, to be honest. Like, it was like, right. So she looked at me and she just, I said hello. She just looked at me up and down again, same thing. I'm like, for fuck's sake. Oh, Monster Dave. I went, well, it's Dave, but yeah. She went, oh, why are you here? I was like, well, and I had to tell her.
Are you serving drinks,
yeah,
Dave?
Exactly. I did look like it because I've gone for one of them ballsy ones with white and black instead of going for black. So I look like a waiter.
Nice.
So then we get to the table, and I got on very well with her boss at the time. So her boss, she's sitting at the table, and you could just see through the night, it just became more and more apparent. The franchisees hated her because of her approach. She got well pissed at the table. And then in the morning, we went and got in a car, and she got in a Skoda, and I got in a Range Rover and drove off. And that, for me, mate, epitome.
But you feel for people like that a little bit, because there's lack of self-awareness, or they just...
Yeah and no, but it was like, how can you be so... like, I was like that. I know I was. But I was young, and I was coming out of an environment that probably didn't help not drive it. But on reflection, I was like, if I can change... I mean, we've spoken about this. We both manage to reflect daily and know that's an inappropriate way to behave, and I'll always front into the way I was.
But there's like 3 or 4 levels to it, isn't it? Because you can be completely oblivious. I was like, the difference between oblivious and obvious, obviously, are very subtle, but there's like stages to it. You can be completely fucking oblivious, the old Yahari's window, the unknown unknowns, but then you can be aware of it and don't care as well. Yeah. And I got stuck there for a little while, where you're like, I know you don't like me, and fuck you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, but Pete, you need to find a way through building rapport with some of these people. You can't just say, I don't care, I think I'm better than you.
Yeah.
because you've got to work with these human beings.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that I got stuck there for a little while.
Was that because you really? I got stuck there because I knew it made me feel unhappy because I knew what I was like, but I couldn't front into it, and that was just self-perpetuating because I was like, that's where my pushback. It's not that I didn't see it; I just didn't want to fucking look because I couldn't admit and look in the mirror. Really, it was a point in my time when I was 25, 26, just as my career started to change. When my career, I knew I had to because I was going to ruin the potential of my career, and it was quite fulfilling. I was like, I should have done this ages ago. Yeah, when people are happy, when you front into someone and say, "Listen, I've been a dick, so I'm going to try and be better," and it's like, no, when you do that with people, they're not bothered. It's like, yeah, okay, fine.
And I think like it's perceived as a massive humility pill to swallow. Like you're going to try and eat an elephant and go, right, I'm going to swallow this honesty. And actually then it's like you go and take a bite out of it and it doesn't hurt at all. You know, you swallow it and they go, dude, it's all right. Yeah, to be fair, you were a bit deep. Don't worry about it. I used to be like that. And then you're like, wow, awesome, amazing. Yeah. And then you build a relationship with someone like that, like you were just saying with your colleagues now, where you can go like, dude, you came in a little bit strong on that one. I was just listening over and like, fuck me, you know, you just kept interrupting. What was going on there?
Yeah.
And I have this all the time. It's a podcast. I'd say to people, anybody, start their own podcast, even if you don't publish it, because the self-awareness you get, and I'm being terrible at demonstrating it today because I get too excited talking to people like you because I interrupt all the time. But you become very aware of your own. Yeah, you become very aware of your own verbal tics and flaws, and like you go, Pete, stop doing that. But no, it's a great enhancement for self-awareness.
And for that reason, mine was, I had to do it to keep going. So then you look at what happened next. We did 5 years there. And if actually I didn't perfect it, if I'm honest, actually, because people say now, I finished my last 2 years, I got given the job title of commercial director for GB and Ireland, with a responsibility of launching Rain, Total Body Fuel, and the Monster Hydro Sport. I was in secretly, and I nearly lost my job for this as well, co-founded a food delivery business at the time before non-food delivery was a thing, from a 15 grand loan that my business partner at the time, he's certainly not a friend now. That's one over a beer if I ever meet any of the people listening to this one.
Okay.
That'll
we'll go
prick your ears up. But I learned loads of lessons from it. So we built it together for 3 years, or I pretty much surrounded him with everything he needed for 3 years in secret. I shook his hand, sort of person I am. So I'll take a stake in 3 years when I become visible. Worked day and night on it with him. We took it from us two to 60 cars, 336 staff, and turning over, would have been, was it close to 4 million? We valuation, a pre-raised valuation of 9.3, which was bollocks. Again, I learnt loads. We paid a consultancy, so when you get in this naughty little world of shareholding and legal stuff that, again, I had no fucking clue about at the time. We got investment within 6 weeks of £1 million, with tech billionaire throwing money at us. The first time I sat in front of anyone and got called that we could be a unicorn, it was one of the things that led me to being quite depressed when it all went wrong. To sit in front of someone where my aspirations went from the doing and the climbing and the racing and the trying to play soldier and all the rest of the heroic shit that you think is cool, to creating something that was in most people's hand in an app, and that Just Eat would have considered buying for probably north of $250 million at least. To sit in front of a tech billionaire, Mark Blanford, who sold sportingbet.com in 2012 for $500 million. And he said, I think you're going to be a unicorn. So those that don't know what a unicorn is that are listening, it's Ben Francis, Gymshark world. It's a business with the potential to be worth $1 billion. Doesn't happen much. So those are the conversations we sat through. We got, I come public, and we agreed when I did become public to take the business on. So I know how to scale stuff. He fucking hasn't got a clue. We're going to turn turnover from 4 to 10 in a 12-month period. I got the first delivery partnership with Co-op. So Deliveroo ended up taking it on 6 months. I was the first person to walk into Co-op 6 months before and pitch the idea of trying to deliver non-food items, but we just didn't have the scale. We subsequently went on, and I won a visible.
How aware were you of stuff? Sorry to interrupt, but like when you see things like Amazon coming down the pipe, and you're like someone, because Amazon, like Google, they will see these things and swallow them.
Yeah.
Because it's easier than trying to come up with it themselves. Was the idea to build something and let them swallow it eventually and just buy it?
Exactly that. So if you looked at the food delivery market at the time, great story with Just Eat, if everyone's not heard it. So he's an ex-Coke sales rep, worked with people that knew this guy as well. 10 years later, exited. that business was going around the planet just growing through acquisition. And the way the stock market works these days, in a very crude manner from my perspective, I believe, is you're heavily affected by shareholder views. So if you were, and the notion of the premise of building a rural delivery model was, we have a lot of rural space in the country. You had Deliveroo, Uber, Just Eat fighting for share in the city. They will fight for share by customer acquisition, which is through pound and pence on trying to buy your customer service. So when that is going to hit a ceiling, I've been on a board where you're going to sit around the room and decide, right, our core business in Deliveroo is X. It's through this bike model. Just Eat's got its own model. If you try to think, right, as a team, we're going to deviate and try and get our own cars in a rural space, that you're completely changing the model. So generally, if it's a risky approach for a business to diversify, it can have a negative effect on the stock market price, which, I think there's things like when Monster was listed in the first fast food restaurant, Domino's, you'd get a significant jump in the share price, which overshadows any fucking can sales. So this is when I started to understand those nuances in the bigger picture. I thought, if we can create a business that perfects the rural model, it doesn't even need to make money. We just build it, because Deliveroo has still not made money to this day, I think. And when it floated, it not made any money. It went to float, and this was the year it was floating. It suggested to float at 3.3 billion, hit 7, and finished at 5 billion. This is the category was so buoyant. So I was like, we will eventually get bought. We had the customer acquisitions director from Just Eat already interested. I'd just done a deal with Co-op, so we were delivering 400,000 deliveries for Co-op a year, and we were rolling a national program out. So we could have ended up like with 300-400 cars. I'd been into Home Bargains. We're talking about a 1 hour delivery streamlined model for them. I'd literally been in the final stages with Tesco on building a booze delivery app. Now, it wouldn't have been the app. So the model had already been done in the States. A business had got bought by Uber for $1 billion inside of a couple of years. And all they did was create an online store that procured alcohol from stores, right? And Uber bought it. So I was like, right, Tesco, come here. We've got a chat. We could have used the 3,500 small format stores, and this is what we'd agreed. They've got some of the biggest buying powers on alcohol. I basically got to a place where we were pretty confident we could have delivered a booze service cheaper than you walking into Co-op and buying it, delivered to the sofa. Just think how fucking that would have took off. And then there'd have been some profit.
How do you protect yourself from people like that just fucking you off out of the picture?
Because we had the tech and we'd already got the app. So all we were going to do on our app was put something called the pub. So you could have gone on our app, Zoom, and gone to the pub and sent your mate a beer. So it's called the pub.
Oh,
so all I'm doing is make our drivers go and collect from their stores. Mate, this is the stuff that makes me tick. And I realised what I'm creating. I was like, fine. We also then went on to help them with their hot food delivery model that they were going to do. And then what happened is we were doing all this. My business partner started thinking he'd do it like me. I had about...
Is this still while you were working for Monster?
All of it was, well, yeah. Fucking, I lied about that as well to them. Someone found out, and I had to go to a meeting. They presented the HR vice president of HR, and my VP slid the company's ice thing over the desk, and I was like, "Fuck." But at the time, it never affected my work. So there was 2 clauses, and this was the reason I'll never go back to the corporate world, and the whole fucking system can go to fuck. Because I was really fucking depressed over this. It went on for 7 or 8 weeks. They investigated this. So if it's a conflict of interest is one point, or your performance has been affected. Conflict of interest, you realise quite quickly, that's pretty broad. They weren't going to give any.
That's a very open-ended term. Well, it's worse than that in some places. When I worked for one of the companies I used to work for, it said that any idea you come up with whilst working here has technically been through the benefit of I forget how they termed it, but basically the exposure you get to our intellectual property has helped develop this new idea that you've got. So they get sign-off or first refusal on buying whatever the fuck you come up with. It was weird, and I saw that and ran in the direction.
But it's what happens, isn't it? So you had that point, which I quite quickly realised. And the HR director didn't like me. I was well aware of that. But I thought, right, I'm just going to lean into the fact that it's not affecting my performance. If anything, you lot look stupid because you just gifted, no degree, none of that bullshit that you need apparently in this corporate ladder that I've been climbing to be given a director title. You've given it me because the other 2 are shit and they've literally ruined it. A director title of which I've then performed. And the the irony in it, they stopped my bonus. So I had a really big bonus. They halved it, and they paid it like half out at the time and then half in a few months. And the underlying thing is they didn't want to actually lose me. But rather than just being quite grown up and saying, look, why the fuck didn't you tell us this? You know, you can't carry on doing this. So I just said, and the trouble was, it was light touch. I wasn't visible. Like the work I was doing was in my own time. Like I don't care. I'll stay up all fucking night if I have to. That's my own prerogative. So I'm delivering in a business, which my career there was pretty good to go from nothing to 7 years, and I'm on the leadership team in the UK. And we go back to the fact I knew my whilst that business was nice and I should have been on a yacht right now. Fucking hell.
You get bored to shit on
I
a
would,
yacht.
yeah. Well, it comes on to another thing. When that all fell to shit, I got very depressed and thought a couple of times about doing something pretty stupid, but it wasn't from a position of poor me, just bored with life, like nothing. And I lost purpose. I think that's a fucking dangerous place to be for any person that's been... I just couldn't see where any enjoyment was going to come from, and realised, like, fuck, I'd never retire. I'd be dangerous. I'd probably be dead within fucking 2 years.
Yeah. A lot are.
Yeah.
You see people retiring from the military, from the services, from high-level business, Olympians. You know, they have programs for Olympians that retire now because so many of them just spiral into poor mental health.
Yep.
Astronauts was always the famous story people used to say, you know, what the fuck else is there to do?
Yeah.
I've gone to the fucking moon.
Yeah.
Everything else is shit.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Hard
And
to get
that's
out of that mentality, isn't it? Because you think... But then for me, it was a time of self-reflection. I really realised businesses. It's so bonkers to think, I fucking love getting up in the morning when the pressure's on, literally shit's going sideways. So I'd managed to take some... So I got voted out of that Zoom business. So my mentor, this is how much of a journey we're on, he's the one that sat me down and voted me out of my own business. I remember in Costa, literally in tears, fucking like, what? And the old founder had made up some, like, I'd play as hard as I'd work. I'll make no apologies for that. I like the way I carry myself well. I'll never be a burden to anyone. I like to think the things I do provide positively, not perfect, but on the main, you know, how I carry myself outside of my work is my own business. When you've got a lot of shares tied up and the business is north of 100 mil, you start to realise quickly who's what. And he thought I'd put the board in place and they'd made a separate little group. He'd stopped talking to me. He was trying to challenge everything I was doing from a scaling perspective. We spent ages undermining me. And they come up with 4 ridiculous reasons. Sat me down. Now, and all this, I reflect, was a great lesson because I understand the board. I was like, well, I've put you 3 there. I've given you 1% of my business with 100 grand. You are now... But I forgot I was missing the point. They're custodians of the company. They're all consummate professionals. They've all got their own careers still ongoing to think about. They all do much bigger jobs. Like all of them are board level, like big hitters, like way bigger than any of my success. And the thing that this is my business partner concocted was hard not to see. But he was just leaning in very hard on things that were unprovable. So long story short, left it with my a fairly nice exit figure that's allowed me to do some other things. On the basis I thought, you can't mess this up. Fucking right he did. 9 months he went bankrupt for nearly £1 million. So he's gone. It's a bittersweet pill for me because it showed the guy's got no ability at all. It's kind of shown everyone that whilst I was in the background, people at the time didn't think I'd done much. Just while I was riding the wave, I was the wave. I made the whole business around him. He was just visible. He was very operationally focused. It's good. He just did as he's told most of the time because he didn't know how to scale them.
This is what pisses me off when people worry about the grenades in companies. And I've had that. I use that term only because people have said that to me when I've failed promotion boards before and things like that. They've said, you're a bit of a grenade, Pete. I'm not sure if you're going to create some great fireworks or you're going to fucking blow up in my hand. But it's those people that make the thing move.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone else is just, tightening the wheels and making sure the vehicle is sustainable. You're the one punching the throttle. Yeah, everyone else is important. They're maintaining, they're the pit crew. But you take the engine out of it, it's just a shiny thing that fucking rots.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. Eventually. But on that note as well, mate, he never used it. He's taught me so many lessons now I can look back on it. And the fact that there's 4 brands on my warehouse door now. 18 months ago, I didn't have one. They're all in different verticals because I'm never going to put my eggs in one basket again. but I had a lot to prove. I'm meeting one of my board members again tonight, which is nice at 5. I thought, so meeting him when we first brought him on was like, if you were in phones and you sold phones, it's like meeting Steve Jobs. It's kind of to give you the gravitas of when I first met this bloke. Had half an hour with him, come back, emailed me, said, you just need to get out your own way. I've got every belief you can do it. I was like, fucking yes. It's like a mid-30s bloke, and I'm getting excited about someone's endorsement of me. And then he joined the board, didn't even take a stake. But it's gone full circle because I was very isolated for a long time, about 9 months. Tried to do some silly things. Everyone around me knows us. Yeah, you just go into a bit of a hole. But the only thing that brought me out is just these businesses. I've got 4 people around me now that have helped me grow them. But they believe me that I look now and it's like these aren't, unless one of us pops off and heart stops breathing, pumping, then these can't fail. And I'm probably having more,
ride or die.
Literally, I'm more enjoyment now than I ever have. Like, money, I had to sell everything, so the toys all went. This is first world problems. I've still got a house. I've still got my health.
Yeah.
Don't
worry about that shit.
No, mate, I'm probably. But it's good. So yeah, and then we come on from leaving Monster. The Zoom business was a monumental failure, but also probably one of the best lessons, because those lessons that I probably would have leaned away from, like finance. I don't like maths. I don't like reading stuff. Which sounds daft. I like listening to things and watching things. The whole shareholder legal stuff I'm now all over, or just more conscious of, and it's done me well. We've got Lyfelinez, which is kind of how we met, which is now my baby, an itch I wanted to scratch for years. I own an eco-friendly, or the UK's most eco-friendly toilet tissue, so it's glueless. There's a real topic. I mean, it's toilet roll at the end of the day, but we flush about 22,000 tonnes of glue down our loos each year. So what, you might say? It's microplastic. You can't recycle your way out of that one. It's not being talked about.
And it's working its way back into our bodies as well.
Yeah, they reckon it can permeate the blood-brain barrier. Here's one for you. So snow close to the peak of Mount Everest was found to contain on average 30 microplastic particles per litre of snow. No one's fucking taking that up there. That's through precipitation. So it's a very real problem. Got into a bit of a rabbit hole. You start looking at the Thames and most of the waterways. But look, that was the business I first took over. I won Entrepreneur of the Year in 2021 off the back of the stuff in Zoom. I missed the award because I was outside having a fag and I was fairly pissed. So I was so depressed.
Dickhead.
I didn't even think I should be there. I didn't think I was going to get it. Walked back in the Excel and they were like, "You've won it." I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Oh." But I felt a fraud. Didn't really say to many people at the time, but yeah, definitely felt fraud. Like winning Entrepreneur of the Year and getting voted out of my own business. And then it went bang. So I then...
is that... Why though? Is that because of how you termed the term entrepreneur? Because the entrepreneur isn't always, they're not the person that's squaring the box and ticking the T's and crossing the I's and all that bollocks. They're the engine. And that's the sort of thing that you can put that nucleus, you can put that power into so many different things, as you're demonstrating today, and it will just supercharge it. It's a massive injection into any idea, really. Big time, isn't it?
But so why did it? I don't know. It's just that I think it's back to what we do. Like you've got how many tickets and things, and you're constantly developing and pushing yourself. I think if you, what for me then,
a lot of people hate that though.
Yeah, I where's that come from? Is that jealous? Because what's to hate about it? What's someone that's trying to personally develop themselves? I think that says more about anyone that's got hate.
I think it shines a light on what you're not doing. Sometimes, like even if someone doesn't want to do it. Like, if someone doesn't want to run multiple businesses and they might listen to you today and think, fuck me, this sounds really, really stressful. But also shines a big light on the fact that, and I have this sometimes, when sometimes you just fucking meet someone you used to know in a queue somewhere and they ask you, what have you done today? Or, how's it going? What are you up to? And you try not to, and you try and gauge what they really want from the question, and they're just being polite. And after a couple of minutes of telling them all the shit you've been doing in the past 6 months or whatever, and they go, little Johnny's just turned 3, and he's a handful. He takes up most of my time, to be honest.
Try to get down the gym.
We just put some plants in the garden, and you're like, fuck me, I'm so sorry I asked, because now you feel like a dick. Because they're like, and then sometimes they even say, "Oh God, you made me feel really lazy, actually." And I'm like, "Well, that's not, I'm sorry."
Mate, you've clicked on something there, not to interrupt you. That statement of "you've made me feel." Right, I've had only yesterday an in an enthusiastic conversation with someone close to me and I get the word, you make me feel, fuck off. And anyone listening to that is probably thinking, who is this guy?
I can't make you feel
I'm
shit.
not making you feel anything. You are telling me that you understand your behaviour is fucking terrible and you can't self-reflect and apologise for it. So the way you feel is right, by the way, because it's how you should. I didn't think you were a nasty person. But if you're feeling a certain way, I'm wholeheartedly happy that you're not a lunatic because you know how to behave, but do not tell me it's me making you feel a certain way. It's not.
No. If I called Dave a stupid, fat, illiterate Asian, he'd be like, okay, because I know I'm not any of those things. So
and it's
that you've not touched any nerve there.
Nope.
It's irrelevant. I can just scattergun words at you. The only ones that you allow to penetrate are the ones that are true, because they're the only true gaps.
I then would say, you're making me feel this way. Well, no, I agree, mate. I think it's a very, I don't know even how we got, but I think that's...
No, I dragged us down that rabbit hole, sorry.
Yeah, no.
So take us back to Lyfelinez. You started up the other... Connect the dots for me from the sort of growth from, Gatorade into Monster, into Britvic, into the insights you'd had into all of those aspects that gave you this growing thing, because this is why we're even having this conversation, because of your genuine excitement. And this is not some you see an opportunity, jump on an opportunity. Like I say, you've gone down the rabbit hole with the microplastics and you went down really deep, which is what really impressed me and during some of our previous conversations, into the drinks market, into the hydration, into the, people say well-being and positive energy, clean energy, like it's a fucking buzzword. But you've gone into a lot of the data. I'm not going to force you into a corner to try and regurgitate some of it, but I know.
So mate, you're right. So the real passion for this one, this is something I wanted to do on, because I always think that I have to litmus test myself. So I'd rather do stuff. I could talk for Britain. We can have a chat. I've fucking been talking for long enough. No, mate, I like that. So I know I can talk and waffle. But I also like to think I am what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? I'm a salesman, so I could fucking tell you anything at the end of the day and make you believe it. Yeah. So it's all about actions. So having been, and I understand a bit of a geek, data, looking at Monster, you think, I truly believe I can build something of significance like a major brand. So Zoom started to get there, let myself down with things I didn't know about, paying no attention to. This one's different. So why hydration? So it's a culmination, I think, of my life. So if you think, I'm 40, nearly exactly 30 days, I think. Yeah, mate. I know. Don't look at it. It's fine. So yeah, and I think I'm leaning into longevity. I think you talked about it. Done things like run the 3 peaks, cycled London to Paris in a day on a whim, no training. Done the service time, climbing instructor, kayak instructor, done all the physical stuff. Now it's about things that are going to leave a bit of a legacy that can help, I guess. So COVID, I truly believe this. If the world was a little bit healthier, we wouldn't have got battered by it. I think
100%.
It's nice to see, like my local gym and stuff, fucking age pop, the demographics grown. There's a lot more old people in there, which is great. It's shone a light on movement at a base level.
That's where I think a lot of this stuff, like with all due respect, you look at some of the Monster athletes and stuff like that. Being fit in your 20s is a con.
Yeah,
everyone's fucking fit in their 20s. You could do all the shit wrong and still get straight up in the morning and cycle to Paris. Do you know what I mean? You can, but like you say, when you get I'm in my mid 30s now, and then you get in your 40s or 50s, it's like, I want to keep doing the stuff I've always been doing for another 20 years. I always talk of it like this narrowing path when you're going up a mountain. It's like, you can jump all over the path and piss about when you're younger and you're not fall off. You can go benders 3-4 times a week, eat whatever you like. When the path's narrow at the top, if you jump around too much, you will fucking fall off. And you will not get back on. Yeah. So you need to get more tactical about what you're doing and what you're putting in your body.
Massively. And this is where this comes down to. I don't believe, unless it's rat poison, anything in isolation is that dangerous. This is all through, I believe in balance. If you look, when I was at Monster, obviously I've spent years in data. So I understand the soft drink category, and when I learned category selling is what we talk about in the industry, where you're looking at understanding buyers' consumer behaviours and the size of things and who's buying what and how someone might be switching out of one category into another built off the latest trend. I find that fascinating. So then I thought, hydration, no one's talking about it enough. Like, it's one of the few things, if I had an hour when I was PT and I thought, fucking Karen, she's on a treadmill, She's a dinner lady, bless her. She's got about 6 kids. She's not interested in really getting fit. I'm pleased to have her here. My job is how do I try and influence the other, however many hours she's not with me, to create positive change in relation to her health and well-being. Because that's always been at the centre of what I do. I won't do fuck all unless I generally mean it and it's meaningful. So you're not going to get her to sleep any better. You can't get her to exercise anymore because she barely wants to do anything when she's with you. Eating, that's a fucking joke because everyone lies about what they eat anyway. What can I do? Just try and get people to drink more or be hydrated. Like, it's such an and I think now with all these things help having great conversations like this on a big platform, especially when you walk me through some of the challenges the service is having with the work you lot do in extreme heat and stuff. But we all know if you're hydrated, you start to metabolize fat better. You can't begin weight loss healthily without being adequately hydrated. Your skin will be better. You won't get headache. Like, she used to have headaches and she'd rather take aspirin than drink fucking water. I was like, but I'll be going to the toilet all day. Wow. You'd rather take a fucking pill than just urinate, like sit on a toilet. It fascinated me. So that's when my interest for just thinking hydration.
It's such a low hanging fruit when you do the effort reward matrix. Fuck me, this is so low effort. Do you know what I mean? Even if you're adding an addition to it, an accelerant, an electrolyte, whatever, the fucking return on it is colossal. Do you know what I mean?
I think we feel it as we're getting older, like you say. I certainly do now. I didn't when I was younger. So that's where my interest for this has always been. And then I thought I can create a brand that is in a category that's not being done very well. I wholeheartedly believe in a mainstream manner we've not addressed hydration properly. Otherwise the world would lean into hydration drinks if we've done the right thing as a society.
Everyone politely nods to it, on every BBC thing, anything. Everyone talks about hydration and sleep and stuff like that. But it's more just like a virtue signaling, polite nod. No one's really, presenting solutions to this stuff. No. They say, hydration is really important. Now go and drink my shit full of sugar and crap. Yeah. Or go and, and it's like,
and you're on a point, and it's quite exciting now because there are a couple of other brands that are competitors. I think that's healthy. They're doing some really good stuff. I think missing the trick for mainstream things, where I'm going with this. So we talked about what was the granular, or when we talked, the granular things that led to me to be here. When you see sports drinks and energy drinks scaling in the US as quick as they do and getting sold, and we're always 3 to 5 years behind the US consumer, which is always a good place to start. You look at my background, and this is what gets me out of bed. I just love doing this stuff every fucking day. It's so fruitful. I'm firmly in the position of the person that enjoys walking will walk further than the person that's trying to get to the destination. And that's firmly where I'm enjoying the moment more than I ever have, where I was just trying to wish my life way before this. So we've got, I looked at hydration and thought, right, it's not, one, we've got a real lack of understanding. 2, I don't think it's been done very well. So now I've created something that's called functional hydration in terms of a category that needs to sit. What is functional hydration? Well, it's an electrolyte blend with water and some more cool stuff. Cool that we've got this behind me. So Hydro G. Essentially is the first full spectrum functional electrolyte blend. What do I mean by that? So you've got all the normal usual electrolytes you need at a very adequate dose. We're not going ridiculous because 1, you've got challenge taste. 2, you need to equate for how big people are, and I don't want this just to be for like where you and I have been in an extreme
bodybuilding bollocks,
4 million foot tall and fucking built like a giant, or people that are extreme. This is for an everyday person to just be able to pick up on the daily, drink it. They taste great. It's not a nose. They're not putting overconsumption of liquid calories, about 10 calories in that. 2 flavors: mango, pineapple, cherries, and berries. The real interesting thing is I used to take, I'm sure like you, Barocca, Multivit, electrolytes, ashwagandha, blah, blah, blah. And I just got lazy.
All that shit.
Thought, what am I doing? Can I put this in a drink? And then it led us down this rabbit hole. So,
well, they say lazy is smart efficiency, don't they?
Yeah.
Or efficiency is smart laziness, one of the two.
Impulse at its best. So then you've gone...
But no, you're so right, because just sorry, one interruption there, because when you say, when a lot of these sports brands and stuff like that position themselves purely for the top athlete. It's like the old analogy that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, because your average Tom, Dick and Harry and Jane, they're not engaging in this stuff because they think it's just for top athletes, and they worry why they feel worse and life continues to spiral and they die in their late 50s because they've never termed themselves as an athlete. Therefore, they subconsciously push away even the marginal gains that could benefit them on their day-to-day life.
You've drawn me onto a big topic, is when we started this, I quickly reverted away from being called a sports nutrition brand, because I realised that's not me. We're not sports nutrition. That turns the people I'm trying to create the products for. Well, this is great for high-end athletes, by the way. Like, I use it. Loads of my close friends have got an ambassador from boxers, endurance runners. One of the guys had run from Conway Castle to Cardiff Castle in 6 days over all the hills. So this has been tested in the extreme end, but it's been designed, and we're talking, while we're a health and wellbeing brand, there's going to be some extensions of the range post these two we'll come on to are about longevity of life, cognitive function. There's a lot about Alzheimer's at the moment. It's the new type 3 diabetes, so you don't forget what your memories, you just can't access them. You look at the role that processed carbohydrates has played the last 20 years. Processed carbohydrates, high GI stuff, can permeate the brain blood barrier, which is where they start to think Alzheimer's is linked with a version of diabetes. And this is the stuff that I think, and we're already seeing, we can offer something that's, I mean, look at this stuff. It's well loud. It looks like an energy drink.
Yeah.
And I'm playing on that for a reason, because it still gives it some identity. But for once, I'm trying to say, listen, things can still be cool, fun, and meaningful. The
low GI stuff's really, really... So for people unfamiliar, talking glycemic index there, and that's what a lot of this stuff ends up having to lean into to make it more palatable, or to just get people that sugar kick. It provides... It's like a bit of a cop-out, low entry to energy when people just fill stuff with really high GI shit. But the thing you said there about the cognitive aspect has been one of the biggest things for me. So, neurohacks and biohacking and all this bollocks has become massive in the last 5 years. But rather than trying to pour yourself into lots of pills and all this sort of stuff to try and buy things or inject things that you've got randomly off the internet, a lot of this stuff is very, very low-hanging fruit.
Massive.
I mean, I myself, if I haven't had enough sleep, I recognise the difference. But when I'm getting up straight in the morning now, this is the first thing I'm reaching for in the morning. It's the only thing I hit before I walk the dog, and then I have the second one before I train. I don't bother eating anything in the morning because it won't get into my system to be anything useful. And also, you lose so much water just sleeping. Everyone knows when you wake up in the morning, you got that fucking dry tongue. That's because you lose moisture through perspiration, just through breathing, perspiring all night long with your mouth open, because we've become mouth breathers.
You can do something, well, you will be able to, and she should have done it today. We've got a simple piss chart. Like, I would do some education seminars around this because it's important to me. I find the topic quite interesting, and I'm just trying to dispel the things you're talking about. It's some myths, misconceptions, and how to manage it. And it's not that hard. Get up in the morning, we all go to the toilet, have a little look, put a piss chart on our website or go out with all the orders. You can just start to gauge. If it looks like syrup, you definitely need to get some fluids in. Science coming out now, like sodium's been demonised so badly in our diets. A bit like eggs. There's another one we're going to digress, but I was told if you ate a raw egg by my mum, I'd get salmonella. I don't think I've known anyone who's got salmonella from eggs.
Butter had the same old thing, and that led to the proliferation of margarine and chemical bollocks, where we're like, no, healthy fats are good for you. Do you know?
So ants won't go near anywhere that plastic stuff, and they'll be all over normal butter. Says a lot.
That's it.
But so you talked about, well, we go back to cognitive function. There's a couple of elements to this. So we've got D-ribose, which is in there, which is not really widely, or I don't think, quote me, someone probably will, because we're talking to a bloody big audience now. I'll send you a tub if you can debunk this, but I'm pretty sure it's not available in any mainstream hydration products as it is in bodybuilding. So D-ribose, in a very crude description, helps as the ATP process. So that adivesifine triphosphate is essentially the base process that we create energy in our bodies. Taurine has a healthy dose of that. It's good for central nervous system repair, and also you guys lumping stuff in fires, I'm sure, especially when you're dehydrated, that's got to start to hit home.
Mate, 100%. People cramping up so much, especially, let's say, this wildfire stuff. You're in that boil in the bag kit with the moisture barrier. And that cognitive aspect of it, like we were alluding to there, I know I'm interrupting, but it's like you're so much more susceptible to that heat stress.
Yep.
You're so much more susceptible to that cognitive blur, your poor decision making. But it's not, people assume that you're stacking all this on a solid base. So what I mean by that is, we put this person into a really dangerous environment. They did a really challenging event. They did whatever. But it wasn't inherently just the environment or the event. Their body wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it brings me straight back to what I said at the beginning of our conversation. You're arriving at work, way dehydrated. You're not even prepped for the thing that you're going to throw your body into. That's why when I was talking about training now, because people say, what are you training for? I'm training for fucking life. Yeah. I want to be that tactical athlete that's ready for shit every single day. Do you know what I mean? And you don't prepare yourself that way every day. Most people don't. They start doing these healthy habits. They start engaging in some of these healthy behaviors, like the stuff that you guys are producing, when they think they've got something coming up. But they miss the massive gain of just developing these habits on a daily basis.
Yeah, and then so there's another angle I'm going to throw with that. I see it, and I've done it myself. So what I would challenge the fact what exists currently that would make that ingraining that behaviour easier. And I do believe I've tried most of it, like the SIS stuff. I've done like long runs, any endurance stuff. After a while, my stomach is in shit state. Currently, the feedback we've had from a lot of the guys, we're talking to some boys down at the Fire Service College, guys over at Cheshire from you introducing this. They're saying some of the current tabs they're using just fucking don't do it. Like 2 or 3 tabs, and they still got headaches. And we found.
Plus, they oxidize. Once you've cracked the pack, they oxidize, and they're not very good long term.
They have the effervescence in them, so we've just gone with powder. But this is a frustrating thing. Look, you've bodybuilded for years, so this started. I didn't even think this existed in this industry, and I'm going to do my utmost to call them out. It's proprietary blend statements. Like, so those are listening that don't understand what it is. I only was aware of it in the protein world. So if you put on a supplement, it's a proprietary blend. You're under no obligation to tell the consumer to what extent is in it. So you could have trace elements of everything. Yeah, this is fucking wrong. Really is wrong. Me and Gaz, we were doing some work mapping the competitive space, and there's brands out there with just electrolytes, and this stuff's not overly expensive to make, and they've still refusing to come away from telling you exactly how much is in it. Now, I find that morally wrong. I think it's absolutely ridiculous at the level, and most of these are just electrolyte blends. There's fuck all else in them. So there's a bit of a...
Plus the levels at which some things exist so low, and an example back from my FMCG days, I worked for a company where we made cat and dog food. They could call something rabbit if it had less than 3% meat in it.
That's exactly what we're talking about. So there's a bit of me on my soapbox now, because I find that frustrating as consumers. Like, we're having a hard time as a society, but someone somewhere allows that to exist. Like that, I mean, someone needs to get rid of that, and then this might help. That's
gone through a formal process. A whole government of people has green lighted that.
Like, it's ridiculous. So as a brand owner, I want to debunk that. Secondly, hopefully, we always get good feedback. I've not had a single person that doesn't like our products. Like these new flavours, the team has done a great job in improving these. Taste for us is paramount. We talk about
my favourite one. What was the one I had most recent when I was with you? That tastes like, first time I had it, I was like lilt. I was like, bang, that's the one I have before I go and train.
Yeah.
Because that was not the electrolyte blend.
Oh, no, you want about lemon sherbet candy, this one here.
That.
Hops differently. But so you've contrasting, this is hydro fuel, this is clean energy with full spectrum of electrolytes. We've got some other cool things in there. So Sen Active has been put in there. And this is the bit as a brand owner that I want to try and improve without ruining the taste, without confusing the consumer, without alienating anyone thinking, they don't need it. There's something called Sen Active. So in a crude manner, again, the autophagy process, so the process whereby your body removes dead cells, which is accelerated through movement, good diet, etc., which notoriously most of us don't do. This will help with. So where I can, I'm always trying to give some value add into the product. And the important thing about this, it's replaced glucose with a low GI carbohydrate. So it won't rot your teeth, so it's fine for the little ones. And you can see if you just go on the website or you go on the tub, the glucose response is very, very limited. You don't get any crash with it either. So it's why, I mean, they use this for baking in the Nordics and stuff. It's just a really good slow release energy source. There's 110 calories in a serving. And then, so these two dovetail together. I mean, you've just called it, you're already using it as I've designed it. This is for me, it replaces squash. It's full of vitamins and minerals, got vitamin C, all the B vits, taurine.
That's the best thing, because a lot of people say I don't like the taste of water.
I hate it.
The big box tick
Plus,
for this
cannot
as well.
Hydrate effectively without the presence of both electrolytes and H2O. You need.
I always say to people, the easy example is you sweat. You know, what does it taste like? It tastes salty. Right? It's because you're not just losing water.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why do you think you've got those white stains on all of your
Why do you
clothes?
think, if you ever as a kid, did you still drink water and still get cramp? We've all done it. So, yeah, you said so. That's kind of the reason for existing. Loads, and rhodiola rose is also in this. So, those of you out there that are into the nootropic space, I think that's quite an exciting one, with the the emergence of lion's mane. Some of them were other. You've got ashwagandha, which I think is a fairly well known nootropic or adaptogen. Well, I've gone for rhodiola roller in this because there's a nuance in that this helps with focus, decision making, clarity of thought. So again, when we kind of made the connection, I'm just quite excited because I really think what I've got here in your line of work, especially when you're in the mix, it's a great thing to have to hand. And it tastes good. That's the other thing. Nothing. I couldn't think of anything worse doing your job and having to go to something that tasted like shit. You're already having a hard time doing your job. Yeah. I mean, the last thing you want is trying to force something down. That in the day, we all know how good you're cold and hungry. A brew can change your day when you're cold and hungry. Yeah. So there's all these things that I'm trying to.
Because things that are usually good for you don't taste good. That's the old analogy of medicine, isn't it? It's people like, oh, well, you should have it because it's good for you, and you begrudgingly took it. That's what I like in going down the rabbit holes of some of this stuff and locating products just like yours. Because it's I will have stuff even if it didn't taste good. That was the old thing where I used to force feed myself.
Remember just
fucking protein, Jesus. Yeah, when you used to mix that stuff yourself, unflavoured, the shit.
Or trying to mix my protein first creatine because it didn't even dissolve.
No, yeah, it was so crazy. It just floated on the surface.
Yeah.
So you might as well just, but even then you'd put it in your mouth and you'd try and drink it down, and some of it didn't go down, and then you coughing powder up, and you just like, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah. Whereas trying now get into this stage where this stuff tastes great and it's it's something that you can so easily. I mean, I've probably 2 liters of it this morning. Because obviously, especially after I come out of a sauna as well, and this is what I always say to people about heat exposure with firefighters. It's great to do that and get into that habit of it, but you've got to pair that with your good hydration behaviour as well.
And look, you've raised another point with this. It's because, but no doubt, a competitor is going to come at our levels and things. So we've tried to put it in dosing that are higher than the above recommended daily allowances, that are not to the extreme. So the difference between we met Matt from the Fire Service College. I mean, you got used to doing him and then his missus. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to create a product that is fit for purpose. And if you want more dosing, you just drink more. It's that easy with this product. The other thing you talked about, 2 litres, is I've literally replaced, I've got a big jug like most people these days. I just put 1.5 scoops and just fill it. It's like diluting it like squash. So there's loads of, I think it's quite easy for people that might not have been in the gym and around supplements for years. They'll get the tub, read it prescriptively like it's a prescription drug. It's not. This is just a guidance. I mean, at the end of the day, the scoop that we're asking you to put in with 500 ml is where it starts. That's a sweet spot. If you want to put more water in, go for it. Then you've got a nice tasting drink that's full of goodness that lasts you all day. So that's quite important, because I think we've been doing this 2 years now, and in your own head, you just assume people know some of the base stuff that we already do, and they don't.
I think one of the things that's really fulfilling about it as well, though, is like, and you were alluding to the stuff you've done with a lot of local sports teams, a lot of athletes, a lot of grassroots level, because embedding those behaviours that early, because sports supplementation is a general topic. We discourage children and stuff for starting ploughing stuff into their body, but we don't stop them having vitamin C chewy tablets when they're primary school age, do we? So that's where I see this living. It's getting them into, and that's really, without getting into a business mindset, that's the best product market to be in. Not that you've manipulated this in reverse to target that. But this is something from cradle to grave, that good hydration should just be a life lesson. You teach your kid manners, you teach them about going to bed early enough, you teach them about hydration.
Yeah, massively. And so this is the thing, if you look around, I was at Britvic. What did Britvic do? Robinsons. Not saying it's not bad, my kids, they're smashing fruit shoots and that, and that's just, I'm in the world now because I don't have kids, of seeing that there's things there that they're already consuming. And you just think, well, I've got a better slant on this. That's Prime. I'm really grateful that Prime come along. Sounds mental to people that are probably listening, but it's shone a light on a hydration category which I predicted was going to grow. And they've done a good job on shining a light on it. They've done an awful job on trying to call themselves a hydration product. In fact,
Prime's an energy drink. You ask anybody, Prime's an energy drink
because they've gone that the influencer marketing level down, which is brilliant. I'm fascinated. I'm very. It interests me the way they've achieved it. I certainly understand what they've done. There's no authenticity to it. It's not good. It's not. There's any credibility to it. I find it insulting. I'm great. Things like James Smith come up recently and done a video because Logan Paul's got Prime and Gatorade. Like Gatorade, one of the most scientifically researched products on the planet, mate. And he's comparing sugar, and you think, well, you're supposed to be a hydration drink, so you shouldn't have sugar, really. But you've got a little bit less. But you're competing into a sports drink. And then when you understand in sport, the presence of glucose speeds up the hydration process. It's like, but he's got them. It's very clever. He's pouring out sugar on a table. So telling mum and dad that go and give little Tommy this. Well, just no, here's another one. Don't give little Tommy this. Give him something that's got 10 calories in, that's got loads of goodness. They've gone, I think some of the dosings with coconut water in it are mental. Like, I literally don't understand them. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but there's no real studies.
Because I think it's an Americanism as well, where more is better with certain things, and they don't. There's a diminishing point of return when you just keep adding shit to a product.
Well, the potassium levels are massive in it. The coconut water stuff is just it's excessive, but we just don't know. There's no studies that have kind of studied to what that excessive could do, if anything. We don't know, but again, it's just a very strange panel, I guess, from someone that really enjoys this space, trying to make sense of it. But they've done a great job. You look at them, you like the power marketing. Again, something that I really enjoy in terms of a topic, and hopefully people that see the brand can see what we're doing. To give people an insight, lifelines that come through the old adage, and I'm probably showing my age, is chuck as a lifeline. When you're hanging out, that was like kind of where it started to come from. I tried to trademark it. Healthcare business had got it. So in true fashion, I'm not giving up. So I just spelt it wrong. And that's how we went through.
I love it.
And then we put the heartbeat, the ECG, just to signify or try and convey subconsciously to the consumer we're linked to health. Got some commitments. We'll only ever produce nutritionally balanced and well-dosed products as per medical research, or as close as we can get. Inspiration.
Take me down that medical rabbit hole for a minute, actually, because you are... And I don't know if you're able to talk about this at the minute, but some of the partnering work that you've done there is really exciting. You showed me some of the packs. The diabetes stuff.
Oh, really pleased with this. So we can. I mean, we'll be talking about it. We shook hands with the Diabetes Safety Organisation, an organisation that was set up 6-7 years ago to help with the topic and awareness of diabetes safety in the workplace. Diabetes UK, obviously great organisation, have given them, I think there's conversations giving them a nod that they are a good authority or a good vehicle to help communicate that place. I mean, it's driven from some of the numbers that Kate walked me through, who founded it. 1 in 10 people in the workplace have a hypo. Didn't know that. 700 people a day are diagnosed with diabetes.
And that number's only going in one direction. As this education doesn't reach the ears that it needs to be reaching at an early enough age.
Exactly. I mean,
that's only going in one direction.
It's astounding. The limbs are being lost. So the real aim from what she's doing, and I really like it, has been around education in the workplace. What a great place to try and do that. If you think 1 in 10 will have a hypo, and we've got all these defibrillators everywhere, like I've never seen one used. I know loads of type 1 diabetics, so learn a little bit more around the minute they start tanking, like they literally go pale, and it's as easy as grabbing a Lucozade. Now there's some other challenges there. One of my friends, we had a meeting because he's quite interested in the business. then they're trying to manage themselves post high GI intake. But back to DSO stuff, I then kind of said to her, what's currently existing in terms of what would you put in the workplace? So she's got a great portal that the companies sign up. They can use the charter, and then it accesses for the workforce. E-learning, there's an element she can go into big conversations. I think the likes of Kia Construction, she's involved with. She's a lot to do with the construction industry, because I think there's a lot of males that have got diabetes, and it can affect the old fella quite a bit. And when she's going into these conversations, it captures people our age, your attention, when you think, oh God, you might not be listening, you think you're going to, become diabetic and need a pen or something. But when you're talking about...
you become more familiar and aware of your own mortality, I think, is an aspect of it, and how you have had a contributing factor to that, and then start scrambling for solutions of how you can slow down that accelerating cliff that's headed towards you for some people.
And we also know you can revert type 2 stuff back with exercise and healthy diet. So our role in this is to help her innovate and improve what's currently on offer for the hypo kit itself. We've managed to half the cost of what's currently out there, and hopefully go and bring into market something that's far more functional. It will be in partnership with them. So the idea is you will have a first aid kit at work, defibrillator, and then your hypo kit. So it'll be available in lorries. We've uncovered the DVLA. I think some of the policies around type 1s should be recording their bloods every 2 hours. It's not. It's just overlooked in general. Like it's not been taken seriously, and it's a topic that's growing at an alarming rate. So really pleased to do the work. I think that's when I looked at creating hydro fuel. So the one you like, it was. So we've done hydration. I looked at energy and thought I need something personally away from the good old coffee, which I'm a big fan of. We've had 2 already today.
No, but you're right. You can't rely on cognitive horsepower and mainlining caffeine, because that shit doesn't sustainable.
Not at all. And for us as a business, I thought, do I want to get into the caffeine space? Probably not. There's some negative connotations which I don't fully believe in. I think there's a lot of positives from using it. Do we want glucose-based or carbohydrate-based energy is definitely something I looked at. And like anything, it's like, well, don't want to just imitate or mimic. Is there any gap to do it better? Yes, there is. Pull glucose out, replace it with something that doesn't rot your teeth and has a lower GI. And that's all we've done with this. That then dovetails into the fact for people who are worried about affecting that blood glucose response, which in effect then stimulates the insulin response, is things with lower GIs are a bit kinder to that whole system. So, yeah, we're hopefully making...
You want to stay beneath that line. I always say that sort of bit that gets triggered, you want to stay below that line. This is where kind of the whole ketogenic diet origin comes from, because you don't want those crashes after you've instigated that insulin trigger. Do you know what I mean? So you want to try and stay below that, unless you're about to go out and do 20 massive sprints and do something incredible. Yeah, then get some high GI, easily soluble, your gels, your fucking whatevers. But you want to avoid triggering that at all, because then once that roller coaster starts, the roller coaster's going all day, and you're going to be crash, eat, sugar spike, crash.
I mean, it's on the graph there. That's essentially the steep red curve's blood glucose. That's the response, and you normally go below baseline. The blue line is platinose. So it's and I've used that all last season. A lot of our athletes race motocross. I've done loads of physical things, and I can tell you now it's one of the most demanding sports. 3 races in a day, they're 20 to 30 minutes long, and you have an hour and a half normally to go and rest, which you just end up on your ass. So you always, through the day, you can't really eat great volumes of food because you're back on the bike. The blood requirements around pretty much every single muscle in your body's working. So the last thing you want to be doing is bleeding any food. So, but I feel so much different riding with that, just because it's just a slow release. Very simple, and the feedback's been mega. Which is, and the whole tooth kind thing is the other one. Like, there's nothing on the market that will your teeth at the moment because it's sugar based. So that's Lyfelinez, mate. In terms of where it come from, where we're going, we are done some great work with TRX. We're at their summit a few weeks ago. Really interested to start working with those guys. I'm trying to put together some initiatives, hopefully, that again mean we can bring some value to you guys in the fire service.
There's loads of low-hanging fruit here, I think. I think whilst it's a smaller market within the first responder community is only a small part of society in general, But I think as much as we stand out there and clap in the street for our paramedics and we say how much we appreciate what firefighters do, from a business perspective, we are not really supporting them with solutions that help with longevity, because a lot of firefighters especially are going to be working now till they're 60, if not later. Some of these strategic long-term health strategies and approaches are things that's very much needed, and that's why I went and found it. To be honest, I'm always looking for solutions, partially selfishly because I want myself to be able to continually operate. Who wants to be fucking Clark Kent if you can be Superman? Yeah. So if I can get as many marginal gains as I can and try and stack the 1%, then it will keep me able to keep doing this shit for longer. But then whenever I do come across a golden nugget, a truffle in the forest like this, I like to try and bring it forward and flesh it out. And you've done a great job with that for us today, brother. I know we've got a bunch of other stuff we're going to do together in the future. I want to be respectful of your time because we've been going for nearly 2 hours now, and I know we've both got some other bits coming up. We will stick some links in the notes for this. Everyone can go over and go find out Lyfelinez. You guys and girls are doing a monthly giveaway with us anyway, which is awesome. So just to get that in the hands of people to be able to try it for free. And then what we're trying to do is get this stuff into the fire service. We want people to be able to take it to their services, because I know people are just bomb bursting into Amazon and finding shit that says hydration on it. The science hasn't really been done there, and they are pouring products that aren't really scientifically backed down the necks of first responders. And as things get hotter and we head into these summers with more wildfires and stuff like that, and especially with all the issues around longevity with breathing apparatus and exposure to heat, we need to find solutions like this. Because we need to be in this job for a lot longer to be able to serve the communities as best we can. So I really appreciate your support, mate. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Is there any closing points before we knock it off today that you think we haven't covered?
No, mate, it's like, glad you reached out. It's quite nice working with like-minded people again. I hadn't even crossed my mind that this could have, I guess, such a positive application. Obviously, just talking to the people that you've put me in touch with, like, as
there's loads, honestly. And we haven't even gone into the paramedics and the military and the police. The police do not get looked after at all. Do you know what I mean? Poor sleep, poor diets, poor hydration.
Well,
they're not looked after.
There's a couple of things. So there's, again, you guys listening, I was speaking to a couple of the teams that are doing the British Firefighter Challenge stuff. We check the website out. We do have an ambassador program, affiliate scheme. There is a big push for me as hopefully the conversation grows within the service to try and create something where I'd like to give back to the firefighters charity, because I believe that's your main charity. So
yes,
I think it's just a nice fit for me, being an ex-vet myself anyway. So anywhere where myself and the business can give back to things like you're doing, first responders. We've got a military thing already on going, my old core, we're starting there. So these things are close to my heart. So I'd rather invest my resources within this business and pay back to you guys first than spending millions on silly TV adverts. I'd rather put it back into the system.
Mate, a lot of companies talk about doing it, but very few do, because they know, whilst it may not be where the biggest bucks are, it gives them that warm, gooey feeling as well. We're actually doing what a lot of people say they will do, but rarely ever do, which is support the people that are supporting us. So thanks for today, brother. Really appreciate your time. Send my love to the rest of the family, and I will catch up with you soon.
Man. Cheers, buddy.
The Firefighters Podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, and please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're around the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.